Previously on Dragon Age Inquisition. The world of Thedas is in turmoil, and to understand why, you gotta understand the Fade. Being the land of dreams, spirits, demons, and magic, the Fade is a nebulous place often in at least a bit of flux, with the exception of one place, the Black City. Always visible everywhere in the Fade, but impossible to reach, the Chantry, aka Fantasy Catholics, believe that the Black City was once the Golden City, seat of the Maker, until some ancient Tevinter magisters found a way to physically break in at the behest of their gods, ancient dragons known as the Old Gods of Tevinter. The Maker apparently punished them for bringing sin to heaven, and these magisters became the first Darkspawn, basically a combo of zombies and orcs who are tainted with the blight and infect living things, and an order called the Grey Wardens arose to fight the— okay, hold on. Previously on Dragon Age Origins. Most of the time, Darkspawn are below ground, wandering the abandoned dwarven kingdoms known now as the Deep Roads, mindlessly searching for the slumbering old gods of Tevinter. When they come upon one of these ancient dragons, they infect it with the blight and it awakens as an archdemon in full control of the Darkspawn horde, which it sends above ground to kill and destroy with wild abandon, an apocalyptic event also known as the Blight. The only ones who can kill an archdemon and end a blight are the Grey Wardens, thanks to a super special secret joining ritual. In Origins, we played as the mage Quaitriel the Contrary Serena, who was recruited into the Grey Wardens after spending her whole life in the Circle of Magi in Ferelden when the 5th Blight started. Quaitriel made a lot of friends and some enemies along the way, but the most relevant bits to our current story are this. When she asked her former circle for help, they had been beset upon by blood mages and demons that she had to help stop first. You see, mages are inherently magical people because of their deeper connection to the Fade, but this also makes them more susceptible to demon possession, which led the Chantry to create circles of magi where mages could safely learn magic under the very watchful eyes of the Chantry Templars. One such Templar was Cullen of the Ferelden Circle, but he was captured and tortured by possessed mages and forced to watch his friends die. Good news is, Quaitriel did manage to save the Circle and get their help, and with the help of several other groups, fight the Darkspawn army, kill the Archdemon, and end the Blight. Mages outside the Chantry are illegal apostates such as Flemeth, fabled ancient witch of the wilds, and her adoptive daughter Morgan, who joined Quaitriel's fight against the Blight. Quaitriel should have died killing the Archdemon, as the soul of the Archdemon should have tried to jump into the nearest Darkspawn or Grey Warden, the former causing the Archdemon to be reborn in a soulless Darkspawn's husk, or the latter causing the soul of the Archdemon and the soul of the Grey Warden to clash, killing them both. Morgan, however, performed a ritual with Quaitriel's fellow Grey Warden Alistair that resulted in a baby that absorbed the Archdemon's soul instead of creating its own, allowing Quaitriel to kill the Archdemon without dying, and allowing Morgan to have a child with the soul of a Tevinter Old God. Throughout this, Morgan learned that Flemeth's immortality was the result of stealing her daughter's bodies, and so Quaitriel killed Flemeth on her behalf. The death was not permanent, given Flemeth's power, but it gave Morgan time to get away. Why wasn't it permanent? Okay, well, Flemeth had put a piece of herself in an amulet and, before Quaitriel killed her, gave it to— okay, wait. Previously on Dragon Age 2. Near the beginning of the 5th Blight, the town of Lothering was overrun and destroyed by Darkspawn. Our Dragon Age 2 protagonist, Tony Hawk, an apostate mage living in Lothering with her family, escaped with some survivors thanks to Flemeth's intervention. As repayment for Flemeth's help, Hawk took the amulet to where she and her surviving family fled, the city of Kirkwall. Hawk took the amulet to a nearby elven shrine of Mythal, one of several elven gods to have been tricked into banishment by Fen'Harel, the Dread Wolf, elven trickster god. There, Flemeth emerged from the amulet, good as new. While in Kirkwall, Hawk made lots of friends, including her bestie, renowned serial mystery and romance writer Varric, and became the champion of Kirkwall for her heroics during a Qunari invasion. Things in Kirkwall were not okay, however, as mages kept turning to blood magic and getting possessed, which caused the local Templar leader Meredith to create an extremely oppressive environment for mages, which resulted in them resorting to more blood magic and demon deals, and it was a vicious cycle that came to a head when one rebel apostate blew up the local chantry. Cullen, who had transferred from Ferelden to Kirkwall, was all for this oppressing of mages at first, but even he, with all his demon trauma, eventually realized Meredith was going too far. It turns out a red lyrium idol was driving Meredith insane, making her extra paranoid, and Hawk eventually killed her, but the damage was done, and this kicked off the events that would eventually lead to a full-scale mage rebellion. While all this was going on, Hawk learned her dead father had helped the Grey Warden seal away an ancient powerful darkspawn called Corypheus, and that Hawk family blood was required to release him. Hawk and friends freed Corypheus so that they could fight him, and discovered he was one of the original Tevinter magisters who broke into the Black City, aka one of the first Darkspawn. After an epic battle, they killed Corypheus, though the Grey Warden ally with them was acting a bit strange after. Years later, once the Mage Rebellion had become full-out war, a member of an order called the Seekers of Truth, named Cassandra, kidnapped and interrogated Varric about the events in Kirkwall, both to better understand what happened and to find Hawk. Which brings us back to— previously on Dragon Age Inquisition. Varric claimed not to know where Hawk was, so Cassandra took him to a conclave the Chantry was holding, wherein the Templars and mages, engaged in a vicious war with one another, were meant to meet and try to make peace. Our main character for this game is Galadriel too, an elven mage from the nomadic Dalish Lavellan clan, sent to the conclave on behalf of her clan to see what this conflict was all about. While there, Galadriel too stumbled upon a dark ritual being performed in which the Divine, aka the Chantry's fantasy pope, was sacrificed to open a giant rift in the sky to the Fade, soon called the Breach. The ritual was meant to give the one who performed it, currently known as the Elder One a small rift on his hand, the anchor, that would allow him to safely pass through the breach, but Galadriel 2 interrupting meant she accidentally got the anchor instead. The ensuing explosion killed everyone nearby except Galadriel 2 and the Elder One. Cassandra and Varric were nearby, as well as the divine spy and Quaitriel's lover/hero of the Fifth Blight, Leliana, but far enough away to have survived. With the help of an apostate mage with expertise on the Fade named Solus, they nursed Galadriel 2 back to health so she could use the anchor to close the small Fade rifts popping up because of the breach and stabilize the breach so it stopped growing and dumping demons out everywhere. Once it was determined that Galadriel 2 was not responsible for the explosion and the Divine's murder, Cassandra and Leliana reformed a long-dead organization called the Inquisition in order to deal with, well, everything. And Cullen left the Templars to become the Inquisition army's commander, and they also brought on a diplomat called Josephine. Varric and Solus also joined up as companions, and Galadriel 2 recruited many more. First batch were the Grey Warden Blackwall, who we hoped would have some answers as to why the Grey Wardens had recently gone no contact, but unfortunately he was as surprised as we were. The Iron Bull, a Kunari spy who offered an information exchange and use of his mercenary crew, the Chargers, Vivian, a very pro-circle mage with impressive connections in the Orlesian Empire's court, and Sarah, a leader of a Robin Hood's merry men-like mercenary group called the Friends of Red Jenny. It was theorized that the same ability that let the anchor stabilize the breach could close it permanently if there was enough power behind it, so we sought the help of the rebel mages and their leader Fiona. Unfortunately, in a bit of desperation, Fiona had already allied with the Venatori, a cult of mages from the mage-run Tevinter Imperium, though she seemed to deeply regret this. Another Tevinter mage named Dorian warned us that his former mentor and Venatori leader, Alexius, was working for the Elder One and meant to kill Galadriel 2 on his behalf. When his attempt to erase Galadriel 2 from existence was foiled by Dorian, the result was accidentally sending Galadriel 2 and Dorian a year into the future, where everything was bad. The breach was consuming reality, and the Elder One had gained control over much of Thedas thanks to his demon army, and Empress Celene's murder causing chaos in the civil war-ridden Orlais. We found the future version of Alexius and were able to defeat him and get sent back a year and undo all that bad, and present-day Alexius surrendered, freeing Fiona and the rebel mages and Dorian to join our cause. With the mages' help, Galadriel 2 used the anchor to close the breach, and there was much celebrating. Until the Elder One brought an army of Templars corrupted by Red Lyrium, known now as the Red Templars under the leadership of Cullen's former comrade Samson, and a blighted ancient dragon similar to an archdemon. A strange boy named Cole gave us a bit of warning, enough to figure out an escape plan for as many Haven residents as possible. Galadriel 2 stayed behind to distract the Elder One while the rest of the Inquisition in Haven escaped. Through this heroic near-sacrifice, we learned that the Elder One was somehow Corypheus, and that he wanted to use the breach and the anchor to return to the Black City. Unlike what the Chantry preaches, Corypheus claimed that the Black City was empty, no maker, and he intended to take the throne of God for himself, but we fucked it up by accidentally stealing the anchor and now closing the breach. Though severely injured, Galadriel 2 managed to escape by causing an avalanche and joined back up with the fleeing Inquisition. Solus led her and the Inquisition to an abandoned fortress called Skyhold, and that present was so grand that things started to get romantic between them. It was at Skyhold that Galadriel 2 was officially made Inquisitor, leader of the Inquisition. With the reveal that the Elder One was Corypheus, Varric admitted that he actually did know where Hawke was, much to Cassandra's anger, and brought her into the fold to help out. After all, Hawke had killed Corypheus once before, even if it didn't stick for some reason. Meanwhile, knowing that Corypheus intended to have Empress Selene assassinated, we attended her royal ball/peace talks and thwarted the assassination plans, helping secure her place as Empress and ending the Orlesian Civil War to boot. As a reward, Selene sent her arcane advisor and expert on ancient elven artifacts, Morgan, to work with us. We also welcomed Morgan's young son, Kieran, who was born about a decade earlier, a solid 9 months after the end of the Fifth Blight. Through a Grey Warden friend of Hawke's named Stroud, we learned that all the Grey Wardens believed they were dying and, in a panic, were binding demons to their mage recruits in order to make an army they could use to track down all the Tevinter old gods and kill them before they became archdemons. A bad idea even before it was revealed that they were unknowingly binding themselves to Corypheus' service in the process. Stroud, Hawke, and Galadriel 2 tried to talk sense into the Grey Wardens, only for Corypheus' blighted dragon to show up and collapse part of the tower they were on. Galadriel 2 used the anchor to open a rift and catch them, saving them from the fall, but landing them physically in the Fade and a Nightmare Demon's lair. They managed to escape, but only because Stroud sacrificed himself to give them time to do so. Corypheus' involvement was revealed to the Wardens because of this, and they stopped their ridiculous demon army plan to join the Inquisition instead. While all this was going down, we did all kinds of side quests and helped our friends. We learned the fate of the last Inquisitor from when the Inquisition existed 800 years ago and fought the Avar god dragon he sacrificed himself to bind. We learned that Lyrium is the blood of Titans, and that Titans exist, and they slumber deep beneath the ground and have a direct connection to all dwarves in the stone. We learned that Varric's old flame Bianca was responsible for Corypheus finding Red Lyrium after being tricked by an apparent Grey Warden. Turns out Corypheus survived Hawke killing him by taking over this Grey Warden's body, something even an archdemon can't do. Bianca was dealing with Red Lyrium for research purposes and did at least learn that Red Lyrium is the blighted form of regular Lyrium. The Iron Bull sacrificed a ship of Kunari to save his best friend Krem and the Chargers, causing the Kunari to banish him. A slimy nobleman picked off Friends of Red Jenny, then tried to ally with us, which Sarah ended all possibility of rather decisively. Blackwall turned out not to be a real Grey Warden, but a murderer called Tom Rainier, recruited recruited by the real Warden Blackwall. Rainier took on Blackwall's identity when he tragically died, hoping to redeem himself by continuing the real Blackwall's heroics. Upon this revelation, our Blackwall, aka Tom Rainier, was commanded to serve his time with the Inquisition, to be made a proper Grey Warden once Corypheus was defeated. Vivian attempted to extend the life of her dying lover, and though the attempt failed, the help Galadriel 2 gave her finally gained her respect. Cassandra learned her former fellows and the Seekers of Truth were being infiltrated and corrupted by Corypheus, and swore to rebuild the Order better and more honest than it was. With much of the higher-ups in the Chantry dead from the Conclave explosion, however, Cassandra, and Liliana for that matter, was also sought after as the next Divine. We learned Dorian went no contact with his father after he tried to use blood magic to make Dorian not gay. It seemed like his father had come to regret that decision, but he hadn't done enough to make amends with Dorian, and we supported Dorian continuing to keep his distance and became best friends. I love Dorian. Solus lost a Spirit of Wisdom friend when it was bound to some mage's service and made to kill, turning it into a pride demon. Solus taught us much about spirits and the Fade, and, in turn, Solus learned that, in his isolation, he had made many erroneous assumptions about people and Thedas. His relationship with Galadriel 2 constantly surprised him with how deep and caring the world could still be. Cole turned out to have once been a spirit of compassion. We learned that Spirit Cole became human when he came to the aid of a young mage named Cole who was locked away by a Templar, forgotten about, and starved to death. Traumatized by his inability to save Cole, the spirit took on his memories and form and became a version of him. By confronting the Templar who forgot the original Cole and working through his grief and anger, Spirit Cole completed his transformation into a human, albeit one with some special abilities. We helped Liliana find closure when it came to her relationship with the late Divine and got in contact with Quaitriel to reassure Liliana that her lover was alright despite all the Grey Warden fuckery, helped Josephine clear up a misunderstanding that got her on an Assassination Guild's hit list, and helped Cullen face his withdrawal from Lyrium and encourage him to stay clean, all while tracking down information on Samson. All of this led us to an old elven temple of the goddess Mythal, where Morgan believed Corypheus sought an elven artifact that would allow him safe passage into the Fade. She introduced us to Illuvion, magical mirrors used by ancient elves to travel the world via the crossroads, which are adjacent to the Fade. The artifact in the Temple of Mythal turned out to not be an Illuvion, though one was also there, but something called the Well of Sorrows, which held all the knowledge of ancient elven priests. It was a race against Corypheus to get there first, but a group of ancient elves awoke from their long magical slumber to defend the temple. Galadriel 2 was able to gain their trust and, with their help, defeat Samson and reach the well first. Along the way, Morgan was surprised to see representations of Fen'Harel, the Dread Wolf, in the temple, as he tricked Mythal and the rest of the elven gods into banishment and was surely her enemy, only for the ancient elves to reveal that the Dread Wolf was not responsible for Mythal's murder. Which, what? We said she was banished, she was murdered? Morgan wished to take advantage of the well, but as a Dalish elf whose history and culture is largely lost to her, Galadriel 2 opted to use the well instead. Foiled again, Corypheus flew into a rage, but we escaped through one Illuvion to another Morgan had gifted to Skyhold. Finally, we learned that Corypheus' ability to respawn when killed would briefly fail if his blighted dragon was killed first, giving us our next goal: kill the dragon and then Corypheus in quick succession. And that's where we left off. How will Galadriel 2 cope with all the voices the Well of Sorrows put in her head, and is she now subject to the will of Mythal? And if so, what does that mean, given that Mythal is an apparently dead goddess? More immediately concerning, what will Corypheus do next?